I'd had the very fortunate opportunity of serving on the IACP Executive Committee for a number of years. And it was a very challenging and learning experience for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wanted to contribute. I learned a tremendous amount. And I just really got fired up to see if I could do more and better and learn more and really expand my horizons, not just nationally, but internationally, as I had some exposure to that on the executive committee. The one issue was police image and ethics. That was a real serious problem at that time. There was a lot of civil discontent with the police. Police were being highly criticized. There were some questionable police activities that went on throughout the country at various locations. So the way we addressed that issue was I then appointed then 6th Vice President, Chief William Berger, to head up an ad hoc committee on police image and ethics. So we did that, and he came out with an excellent report from that project. The second issue that we were dealt with was really, we called in the vernacular, technology. That issue dealt with technology that was just evolving, particularly in the police sector. And from the policy standpoint and from the operational standpoint, how would that work? And what could be done? And we had to ensure as best we could that police departments were able to stay with state of the art and be on top of everything as this technology is evolving. So again, appointed an ad hoc committee headed by then 4th Vice President, Chief Michael Robinson, and he carried that through because the other part of that was we had the whole issue of the public spectrum for law enforcement. Came at that time, the government was selling off public spectrum, and there was a grave concern that we would not have public spectrum, radio spectrum for police. So they did their work and did a good job bringing that out. And I don't necessarily say the most overriding, but certainly was one in which we called a summit on, was youth violence in America. We had spiraling youth violence, and particularly homicides and violent crimes taking place. It was multiplying by the double digits at that time. And there were two very different approaches to it. Some states were taking a very, juveniles are delinquents and they should be treated as such, and other states were very strong on enforcement. My concern at the time, and it was only my concern, it was a concern that I learned along the way, was that no one was dealing with the cause of the problem. They were dealing with the symptoms of the problem. And therefore we had a youth summit in which involved the Justice Department, law enforcement officials, and those who dealt with youth outside of law enforcement. And the results of that summit, in which the Attorney General was the keynote speaker, were to some degree at least put into operation in future years. Well, I always smile when this one comes because I never wanted to be president of the IACP. I wanted to be a vice president of the IACP. But the only way one could become a vice president of the IACP was to go through the chairs. And at that time we had 6 elected vice presidents in numerical sequence. So I ran for that, and it was a practice and custom, that an expectation that if you ran for 6th vice president, you would be expected to ascend up to the presidency, even though at that time you had to be elected each year. And had a moral obligation when I got there. My choice would have been to stop at 1st vice president and then run again for 6th vice president and go through another series of vice presidencies.